Hi, how are you, Tom?
I get sort of okay.
Not so happy then about yesterday.
Well, I'm happy-ish.
Yeah.
I recognize it as a major accomplishment and a major move in the right direction, but I guess I allowed myself to get my hopes up a little more than I probably should have.
Yeah.
I just kept thinking, we gotta do it, and it's like,
I had such a large fear that we were going to get another surprise that my hopes were not anywhere. I mean, they were like below the table. And
well, that's good.
any win on top of that was, any win would have been happy for me. I was surprised at a couple of things, but I did not feel disappointed because I had such low expectations. It was very nice during election day to see so many students and so many people mobilized to go vote.
Yeah.
But even then, I just figured we'd win our little area here and then the rest of the nation will go to Potts.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, well, we did really well here.
Yeah.
Really, not 100%, but pretty.
Which one do you see as not quite there?
The Rodney Davis.
The Rodney Davis election, yeah. By 3,000 points or votes, 3,500 votes, I think.
But when you count the votes everywhere, when you actually look at the vote totals, it was like everywhere it was close. There was no place where it was like, oh, it's not even close. It's not even competitive. It was like really almost.
Well, I started watching the TV early because I didn't know if I was going to last, and the first 20% of turned in, Rodney was down like by 20, 30 points. And I was like, really? Okay, so they turned in the university ones in early. And sure enough, he climbed up, but she didn't go down. And that's what was surprising. I was like, oh, so we're closer to getting a pro-immigration person than I thought. That was very nice.
Yeah, it was. Anyway, I should take a moment and explain to anyone who's watching that this is a slightly unusual version of the CU Immigration Show. We're not in the studio this time. The reason we did it this way is the election was on Tuesday. The show is usually on Mondays. Yeah. And so I thought rather than try to do a show on Monday that would become pointless after the next day, we'd wait a little bit. So this is Wednesday night, the day after the election. We're at Ricardo's house. I should introduce this as, introduce yourself.
Ricardo Diaz, longtime friend of the show.
That's right, a former star of the show who's since gone into retirement a little bit. He's now the
I'm
executive
in the background.
producer.
I lead by behind.
That's right.
I mean, I what does he say? Lead. Obama says lead from behind.
Lead from behind.
Yeah.
You see his name every episode as a producer.
Even though you're.
Anyway, I drug him out of semi-retirement to talk about this because we wanted to talk about the election and what this means. I mean, what is this going to do for us or not for us or whatever? I know right now the news, a lot of it's overshadowed by the fact that Jeff Sessions retired.
Yeah.
And in one sense, that's a really good thing.
Retired? No, he was fired.
He was fired.
But he didn't say he's done.
Yeah. But it's really good to have him out of there. I think Trump is so fixated on saving himself with the Russian investigation and all that stuff that he's ignoring the fact that he had his best guy for the anti-immigration stuff was in the perfect spot to do the most damage. He was
the executioner, yeah.
And I have a hard time imagining anyone else in that place who will be quite that zealous.
The only other guy, and I don't know how that election turned out, the Secretary of State of Kansas, the guy who...
Kobach.
Yeah,
Kobach. He lost.
He lost.
Yeah.
There you go. So now he's free.
He's free.
See, had he won, then he wouldn't be. Well, actually, no, but not as Attorney General. He doesn't have the background, I think.
He doesn't have the background, and he could never get through the Senate. That's the thing. Whoever he picks is going to have to
please.
get somewhere. And Sessions was a senator, so he was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, sure, we love you. You're our best buddy.
Yeah.
We've known you for years." So he sailed through, but anybody else is going to have a hard time, and the Dems are going to be really tough on him. So it
Right.
won't be easy.
Yeah, yeah. So in that sense, on the national side, there's the legislative, the execution, the executive. The executive, in this sense, at least for a little while, should be distracted. I think that Trump's caravan and all that, it was all
Yeah, completely bogus.
bogus, exactly, just for the elections. It was like the tailgate party. In the game, I think it's going to take him a little while to actually execute anything. This 14th Amendment stuff, it's so out of place and so out of anything that I don't think he'll get very far. And he needs to wait a little while to come back to it because he's got so many other things on his plate.
Yeah.
So at least from the executive side, I think we're going to have at least a little lull on the attacks that they've had. The most he could do is put out an executive order, but since he doesn't have anyone to run it by in the same way, it'll be another flop, and then more litigation. And for me, that side, I feel better. ICE and Homeland Security have become quite systematic. They got lots of money, they got lots of staff, so I don't expect they'll relent. But at least no new headliner attacks from that side is what I expect.
The big posturing, the big let's make an example of this situation or this person or this group or whatever. I agree with you. I think that's going to like quiet down a little bit for a while here. And also the House, with the Dems having the House, there are lots of ways that they can defund things. I was trying to look this up, like what can they do now? Well, they can investigate a lot.
Yeah.
And that's good, because they can investigate, okay, what is happening at the border? What is this with family separation? What is going on with this? What is going on with that? And by bringing that stuff out in the open and actually having a real honest look at it, it makes it harder to do some of that stuff.
Yeah, well, certainly anything that needs money, it's supposed to start in the House, and therefore they could just not start. And I'm thinking about the wall in particular.
Oh, yeah.
The chances of a wall right now are so low because it involves money, right? Whatever money has been allocated and actually stolen, like 3 months ago when they were taking money from other parts and slushing it into the Homeland Security side and on immigration, I think could still go on. There could be an investigation on that, but new money for the wall, it's going to be, especially because they've already funded themselves for a little while.
Yeah.
They put it in bigger pieces, and therefore, for Trump to say he's going to, stop the government, shutdown, they funded too many parts of it already to have a complete shutdown. So anyway, so there's no omnibus bill that would be a trading chip for that kind of thing. So anyway, so the wall stuff for right now, I think is also down as an immediate threat.
What about the Dreamers, though? I was trying to figure out what is going to happen with that, because they're already pushing that towards the Supreme Court, and now the Supreme Court's pretty well stacked against it. I don't think they're going to.
Well, do you think that it's maybe it's stacked pro-Trump, but I don't know necessarily that it's necessarily against the Dreamers in their private vote.
Well, Thomas will be, Gorsuch will be, and probably the new guy.
The molester.
Yeah,
I would just call him the
Chester
molester.
the molester. But yeah, I think Roberts, I could see Roberts doing one of his
he has
slips
done it
on
before,
that one and saying, no, these guys are okay,
So I think the suit, they accepted it for this session. I'm not sure.
I think so.
Okay, so they went. It's months before anything would happen anyway. Because even if they hear it in the session, let's say by January, it still takes several months to put anything out. So I would give it at least a year before even if there were negative movement, it would still take a little while. And by then we're in the middle of election season again, and so maybe that'll sway it. So I don't feel for a big change against the Dreamers. Maybe TPS or some of the other categories, they could move on faster, especially if they get somebody besides Sessions to do, the bidding.
Yeah, this new guy, this temporary guy, I was trying to look him up, but everybody is writing about him in terms of the Russia thing. And I'm not really getting any information that's useful to me in terms of like, who is he and how does he feel about immigration? How does he feel about this or that? I don't get any sense of that.
Yeah, so for me, because of that, and he's been in a circuit where he hasn't dealt with it, he might not have had any big decisions on it. But he could still surprise. That is, he was very partisan. He stated it, against the Democrats, whatever else. But immigration, the history of legislation and then court cases on immigration, I think, leaves enough doubt to say he's not necessarily going to go with Trump because as a longtime judge, he's aware of the washback of cases. And so for me, that's a hopeful situation.
So you're feeling good then?
I'm feeling very good. I think that in the court, aside from all my other feelings on the other social issues, when it comes to immigration, I think that right now there's a calm by necessity because other things take priority. It's probably the one time when I feel like I'm okay with immigration taking second or third tier. They can't get to it fast enough because it's not the same as the other kinds of categories, including healthcare. The last time that we had a chance at immigration, it was healthcare that took it. We had taken a bus, a group of students actually. We drove to Washington.
Oh, yeah.
We were right in front of the Capitol. Thousands and thousands. I mean, they were like 3 jumbo screens deep. It was so. They needed to project the image because they were way over there. And it was the politicians that lined themselves up for their 2 minutes to say they were with us. But it was on a Sunday afternoon. We were sleepy, tired of the politicians saying they were with us. And really inside the Capitol, they were voting on what is now Obamacare. And there was probably a crowd of, I don't know, maybe between 500 and 1,000 in the back. That were capturing all the cameras. The 20,000 in front were not enough because the issue was healthcare. And so I felt really angry that day because we were being put aside. On the other hand, I was hoping that the healthcare bill would benefit immigrants too in some way. Just allow them to buy insurance under the plan. That's what really made me mad. There was a mean-spirited sections. But in any case, I think that in this case, immigration will take second tier, and given that things have been so bad, it's okay with me.
Yeah, I agree that anything that takes the evil genius his eye, Sauron's eye off of immigrants and puts it on something else is good, right?
Yeah.
Until 2020 when we can get rid of it altogether.
Well, that would be very nice. But I think in the meantime, Secretary Nielsen, of Homeland Security, she's got other fish to fry, especially because Trump keeps putting things up there, or there's more shootings or whatever else, and so it ends up intensifying her attention to other things, and this has to run it on its own with what they've already started pushing, which is not a small thing. It's still evil things, but again, even on the execution side of that, slow it down. So,
well, I have to say I agree with you. This is too bad because it's a lot easier to do a show if we're arguing about something. And we're both going, not bad. That's pretty good.
No. But for me, at least, it's the marker of how we feel today. I mean, remember 2 years ago, right after the election, it was hard, right?
Yeah.
And we had that immigration forum meeting the week after, and we had, I don't know, like 4 times the norm, the norm of attendance and people wanting to do something. They could see it coming and they wanted to come out and help, which was very encouraging. So that's the national elections. There's the state, and then there's the locals
Yeah.
that excuse me, that impact us.
Yeah.
We've always dealt with it like that in policy,
Mhm.
and I'm trying to figure out. I frankly wasn't paying as much money, as much time and attention on the governor's race because it was just money everywhere.
Yeah.
My son, 10 years old, he said he could quote the ads that were being put out because he watches YouTube
Yeah.
quite a bit. And then he says on Pandora at school, which I never realized. They're allowed to listen to Pandora at school, and it has ads, and in this case it was political ads. So like he had them memorized, and he knew the
Wow.
the county executive race. He knew the governor mostly. That was his biggest thing, and of course a little bit of the other ones. But coming back, Rauner, I was surprised how there was one ad, and I think it was a YouTube ad that I saw it, that he was talking, and Sanguinetti was also talking. They were like fast. They were each reading one or two lines. Boom, 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 boom. It was very effective for me because that's the way I like it. Don't give me the music. Just boom, boom. Tell me what you gotta say. And they took turns saying really evil things. Build the wall, send them back. It was just like everything that Trump has put out, they were both saying.
Wow.
And like, I could not believe it because a year ago, we were sitting in the Mexican restaurant in Chicago with Rauner signing the Trust Act, surrounded by immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
And a year later, here he is. And he was saying stupid things in the debate too about, just like he was recasting Trump junk.
Mm-hmm.
And I was surprised that he would play up to that side so readily after having invested so much time, money, and some capital in making friends on the immigration side. So
Yeah, that's just not smart.
Yeah.
More than anything else, as a politician, aside from ethics and honesty and all that sort of
throw
thing,
that
which
out.
we can ignore. when
We
we're
don't
talking
expect
about
it from them.
politicians, but this is not smart. He's in Illinois, and we are a pretty good, open, friendly state as far as all those things are concerned. And so, taking the Trump line is just like suicide, really.
Completely.
I don't know. He was just trying to get all the Trumpsters out of the woodwork or something. Show up.
He was running against there for then all of Chicago and most of the metropolitan areas,
Mhm.
which maybe that's how he won last time. I don't remember how close it was, but not this time. Not with the money that was being put up against him.
So I don't know this Pritzker guy at all. I have no sense of him. I didn't follow it. I figured he'd win if he won, and I was hoping he would, but
Yeah, so like I said, I didn't follow the race as much. I had read the initial points, and he is the items pending on the assembly docket for immigration. In this case, for the what's the bill coming up on funding, on allowing the undocumented students to also be able to participate in the scholarships. ICAUSE was supporting, but that bill is coming up, and by February it'll be going through. The meetings have already been held as to how to put the bill through and how to help the Dreamers in Illinois, one more rung up. And so I think that by then the new governor is there, the assembly is dominated by Democrats, and so we'll take a next step in the protection of Dreamers in Illinois. In fact, it'll be to the point, already I had seen it in Missouri, people moving or establishing an address on this side of the border for driver's licenses and for other things. I would expect if I were a parent that had that situation, just move, especially because Missouri, I'm not sure about Indiana, but certainly Missouri is so against that. If I want my in college, in
Yeah.
higher ed, move to Illinois.
Yeah.
You graduate from an Illinois school, you've got access to state schools,
Mhm.
state tuition. So anyway, so I think that will be very, very nice. The access bill is the one that I was talking about. Giving them access, yeah, exactly. Giving them access to some funding. So that'll be forthcoming, and I think it'll be a positive thing. So anyway, so that's the state level. I don't know of any other bills really that are there. Extending the Trust Act to make safe spaces instead of just law enforcement to not apply immigration law. Rauner even was backtracking on that. He says, I only signed it because the law enforcement community was with it. And I was like, you signed something and you throw them under the bus for something that's positive? Anyway, so I think that's coming up a little bit more. But I don't fear the state. We have good people. Locally, we're represented well by Bennett and Carol. So I think we just have to put our minds, what else do we want? What's on the wish list?
Yeah, this would be a good time to start thinking, like, what can we ask for?
Yeah.
State-wise. And it's getting slim. I mean, we've got
we've got most of the basics,
What
right?
was the thing that Rauner vetoed?
Yeah.
I forget what that was. It was,
Access, I should look it up.
I thought it wasn't the Trust Act, but it was right around that same time.
Yeah, it might have been Safe Spaces.
I don't know if that
We'll look
could
it up.
come back up again or not.
He calls them three bad immigration bills. The sanctuary concept, and there you go. So it says one of the bills would have banned state agencies, including schools, public schools, universities, from asking about immigration status. And so he calls that sanctuary. So a sanctuary campus in that sense. That's a controversial thing because sanctuary as a word, what does it mean and what does it mean for a university and whatever else? So that was the excuse from the local administration. And I think it wasn't totally unjustified. If they're going to protect already, they're not going to turn them in. That's already a big step forward. You don't have to call it anything, just establish a policy. And I learned that during that time that they were very serious about it's not their business. State resident, state student, I don't want to know anything else. So anyway, that was one. The other one was the Anti-Registry Program Act, which would bar state and local agencies from creating a registry programs that single out Illinois residents based on race, national origin. And so that would have affected, it's for example, state licensing. If you start creating the license and you have to declare your status and where you come from, there's a possibility that somebody could just say, we're not accepting any from this category. And so that's important, especially now locally, because we're looking to help people credential. If they were a doctor back home, then let's see what is the process for them to be a doctor here. That's the top end, but there are many professions that are transferable. We need mental health professionals here, right? Well, it turns out that we have psychologists that are degreed and vetted in their countries.
Right.
So why shouldn't we vet them if they've already been through a program, right? So we need them as bilingual and also culturally competent. Well, it turns out that they are here. We just need to process them, license them, and move on. Instead of trying to create and grow our own psychologists that speak X language. So anyway, so that was one of the bills that was coming up, and it was to eliminate the possibility of them getting licensed. So it was a mean bill. Anyway, so that got thrown out too. So we hope, and maybe we just haven't dreamed big enough because we were so busy just surviving. That at least in our state, I think it'll make a big difference.
I hope so. Well, I think locally, our Was there more on the?
No, even better. Go ahead, go
Well,
for it.
locally, new sheriff.
New sheriff, a Democrat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is could be a big deal. Don't know. I mean, he still has to work with all the same people, and the same people are the same people. You know, they're going to.
Well, but I think it does, at minimum, it should secure their policy of not turning somebody to ICE unless there's a warrant.
Yeah.
Right? That's been the common practice. Actually, both of the candidates, that one I did follow a little bit better. Both candidates were very much on that. The only caveat was that Allen, what's his, how we say, AJ Allen, lieutenant. Anyway, the first deputy that was running he was clarifying that they have a longstanding policy of publishing who is going to be released when.
Mm-hmm.
And they do that for all the people that they have in jail that are now awaiting just a bail hearing kind of thing. And he said, and we cannot stop ICE from checking that published list. Which, it's an honest thing. Mm-hmm. It is true. And he didn't say we're going to do something special for the undocumented. So it was, I guess for me, it was not a threat. It was just a clarification, but it sounds against the line that they used to say before, we don't cooperate with ICE. Right? Because in that sense, that is cooperating, even if it's not intentional. It was. So.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I expect that to stand. That is, no one gets deported directly unless there's good reason, a court-mandated reason to turn them over. So that's a good plus. On the other hand, the other thing that would be nice from the sheriff, and maybe the new sheriff would lead it, is that we know when ICE comes to town.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the security reasons of not announcing that they're going to be here, but it would be nice if after they leave, they left a nice clean records that said, and we took these people. Not that I'm happy that they took the people, but it's less work for us to figure out which families were affected.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I realize, at least I don't fight the fact that ICE is going to come, they're federal officials, and this is their land.
Yeah, they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
More or less.
More or less. But before, it was a very nice cooperation that we could call, I always forget the number, 411 or 211? Well, the 911 system.
Yeah.
And ask them if somebody had been taken in particular. So anyway, that's a plus as far as the sheriff. What about the others? Carol run unopposed, so we have the state. Does the clerk or anybody else affect this?
Well,
County executive, maybe?
I was thinking like the voting stuff could be good with Aaron
As the clerk?
As the clerk, there could be some outreach or voter registration things, or making it easier for people in certain areas to vote. I mean, I know that I saw a lot of people talking about how it was really hard for the students, for example, to vote. They were long lines.
Long lines, yeah.
I went to my polling place. I just walked up. There was like three people
no
there
line?
or something. Yeah, nothing. Just nothing
no.
at all. It was that easy. And then when I get to work and I check various things, and I see like on Facebook, there's like students, hundreds of people in line just waiting, for hours.